Hi guys, one of my biggest passions is rugby league. I've loved it since I was a child, and my love for it and passion has grown over the years. That's why I want to welcome you all to the very first episode of On the Hill with Romeo Georges. Tonight, we're going to talk about something to a lot of people in New South Wales and Queensland. It's next to the Holy Grail, the state of origin. And I'm going to tell you what it means to me and why we, players in the New South Wales team need to go back to the origin of state of origin and go back to the foundations and the real reason why we play state of origin rugby league. So I hope you enjoy the show tonight. Let's go. So here we are on the hill. A lot of grounds in Sydney have a hill. They're local grounds. Now everything is stadiums. The feeling of being close to the game has been lost. Why is that relevant to state of origin? Because I believe that in order for New South Wales to win every single state of origin game, the crowd must be involved. The crowd must be, and how can I say it? They've got to feel like they belong. They are part of the team. They are unified. This is what we've lost. Why have we lost it? Because grounds like this no longer exist anymore. This was the home ground of the mighty Newtown Jets. Just behind me up there was the big jet. That's gone now. This oval here is called Henson Park. A lot of great battles happened here. People talk about what is New South Wales, what is state of origin. Phil Gould is renowned for doing his great speeches. You want to know what state of origin is? You want to know what it means to be a New South Walesman? It means to never forget where you started, why you played the game. And it all starts on grounds like this. Players seem to forget that, and I hate that about the game. They talk about having pride in the jersey. You have pride in the jersey even before you were given a jersey. It's having pride in the state. They might lose the first game, they might lose the second game, and then they'll tell you, oh, we're playing for pride now. What an absolute load of rubbish. You know what the secret of Queensland is? Queensland play rugby league like they're, how can I tell you? They're playing barefoot. They're playing in the backyard. They do things that only kids in the backyard would do. Or on a Sunday afternoon playing for their local club. Everyone wants you to think that rugby league is a game for blue-collar workers. The truth is, it's become a business. It's for white-collar and corporates. And that's why I believe that New South Wales loses so many games. I'm proud and honoured as a spectator and a supporter to have Brad Fittler coach New South Wales. Why? Because Brad played football like he was barefooted and playing in the backyard, and he had nothing to lose. People like Ryan Girdler, Brian Fletcher, Andrew Johns. These blokes played football like it was a game in the backyard. And that's what makes Queensland so great. That's why they win nearly all the time. That's why their record is 22 series. And New South Wales only have 16 with 2 draws. If we want to change and make sure that New South Wales goes back to its glory days, we need to remember that this is where rugby league starts and finishes. You'll see big hits. They've removed the big hits. So we go onto YouTube to watch the glory days when men were men. Now the game's designed for women. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sexist. It's designed to appease mothers. Don't ask the mother if she wants to play rugby league. Ask the son, ask the daughter. I guarantee you, if they whinge enough and they love the game as much as I did, they'll play the game even without their parents knowing. That's why we've no longer become a blue-collar game and we've become a white-collar game. And that's why I love this game and I want to go back to the way it was. It's grounds like this. It's grounds like Belmore. Greats like Steve Mortimer and the Mortimer brothers. Right? You've got Parramatta, Ella, Growth. We had players back then that played for the love of the game. They had another job. Now here in New South Wales, they're too busy worried about where they're going to get their next latte from. Am I bagging it out? No, I'm seriously concerned. They spend thousands, if not millions of dollars trying to educate our kids on what it means to be a New South Walesman, what it means to play for New South Wales. The truth is, it's quite simple. To play for New South Wales means you've got to play even if you don't get paid. You play for each other, you play for your state, and that's what Queensland does. That's the secret of Queensland. And I want that to stop. There's no mathematical equation, there's no miracle potion. Queenslanders play for one thing, to enjoy the game, represent their state and win at all costs. New South Wales, we've seen it over and over and over. With 10 minutes to go, they're thinking about what next product they're going to put in their hair when they get home and have a shower, or where they're going to go for a quick pizza after it, or a beer. New South Wales seems to give up in the last 10 minutes and then allows Queensland to be glorified as the team that always comes back and always scores a try. I want to thank Brad Fittler for stopping that. I want to thank Brad Fittler for bringing back the old days. I only look forward to bringing back the biff because I'm sick and tired of small players picking on big players, thinking that they're tough. There's no respect anymore. There's no longer knowing where your position is or where you stand in the hierarchy of the game. Have we made the game faster? Absolutely. But we've lost a lot as well. We've lost a lot. And the most important thing, and the reason why I'm doing this, tomorrow night, it's State of Origin, Game 1. This will either set the grounds and the foundation for New South Wales to take a clean sweep of the series, or it will set the ground and the foundation for Queensland to take a clean series. But one thing is for certain, I want to remind everybody, when you talk about pride before you put on that jersey. Understand what that jersey means. Children all over New South Wales and Queensland, even in Victoria now, dream of becoming New South Wales representatives or Queensland representatives. I'm talking to the New South Wales kids. If you want to be a great New South Wales person, play because you love the game. Never back down, never give in, and always say, I'm proud of my jersey even when I'm not wearing it. I'm proud of my state even when I'm not living in it. That's the difference. And that's where the direction of fixing this game. I never was good enough to play in any, high level rugby league, but I know the game. I've dedicated myself for 10 years volunteering. I've learnt a lot. I know how the game works. I know that it's probably 10% physical, 90% thinking. It's actually a thinking man's game. You got to read the plays, you got to read the players, you got to feel the game. So to every single New South Wales player out there tomorrow night, here's my message to you. Go out there and play like you were 12 years old. Throw those passes, run, have fun, feel pride in your state, and that's how you win. That's what Queensland does. It's not set moves, it's not outsmarting the opposition. Queensland love to play. They'll play with no money, they'll play with no boots on. New South Wales, boys, listen up. Stop thinking about what kind of cup of coffee you're going to have after the game, because men have beer. Stop thinking about what kind of product you're going to put in your hair after you have a shower. Play the game for 80 minutes. Play that game for 81 minutes. Play that game for 90 minutes if you have to. Never ever stop playing that game, and you will win every single game. I guarantee you that. So, guys, this new program is called On the Hill with Romeo Georges, and I will be talking about NRL every single week on YouTube. We'll share some to Instagram. So if you enjoy it, please share, like and subscribe. It's a different take and I hope you enjoy it. So, On the Hill with Romeo Georges. It was 1980, my first football game that my father brought me to. Rugby league game, New South Wales rugby league game. He brought me here to Hanson Park. I was watching at the time Newtown Jets versus Eastern Suburbs, and what a game it was. I was St George supporter, but it wasn't about my team, it was about the game. I was in awe. Just over there, you could buy a hot dog and a can of Coke. I think Dad back then paid $1.60. He got me a meat pie and a can of Coke. And I sat in these very grandstand and ate my meat pie and my can of Coke. It was like gourmet food. First meat pie I ever had. And I fell in love with the game. Could you say the meat pie made me fall in love with the game? Maybe. It was a bloody great meat pie. This game means a lot. This ground means a lot. My uncles all followed Newtown Jets. And it was very, very upsetting after 1983, Newtown Jets were kicked out of the game. Apparently they, weren't financially viable. Apparently they supposedly, well, I guess that's the corporate world sneaking into a tradies world. White collar started to dominate the blue collar. They can try as hard as they can, but it'll always belong to the people. This game was started by the people. It was for the people. It was normal commoners who were great at union, that had enough of being abused by these rich people in union. So they formed their own game. It started in England, actually. The revolution started in England. And by 1908, it had come to Australia, and South Sydney was leading the way. Who did I play for? Didn't play a lot, really. Played for school, had a couple of games for Earlwood Saints. But I loved the game, I loved to watch it, I loved to play it. I was married and then God sent me a son. And when he told me that he wanted to play rugby league, it was music to my ears. I thought I was in heaven. He's been playing the game ever since. He's 16 now. For 10 years, I stood by his side. I watched him develop from an average player to a very good player. I became a strapper, so I can be even more involved, so I can make sure the kids out there are safe, and if they get injured, I can help them. Rugby league offers more than just a sport. It offers more than just fitness. It offers a bonding with the community. It starts off with the boys bonding with each other, becoming a team. Then the parents of those boys, the coach, and it grows from there. Problem is when these kids grow up and they fulfill their dream of becoming a first grade footballer, which is very hard to do. It's actually 1% of all the kids in New South Wales and Queensland that play can actually make it to first grade, so it's quite an honour. What I find frustrating is how quickly they forget how honoured they should be. They quickly forget what position they're in and how grateful they should be to be in that position. They get paid millions of dollars. Then it goes from loving the game to if I feel like playing. I'll tell you this, the boys I played with, my son and his mates, week in, week out, it was never, do I feel like playing? Every week we played. You want to go back to the origin of success? Here, grounds like this, a said it before and I'll say it again. To all these first grade players, yeah, I know it's a job, but you should be grateful that you've got a job such as that. And never forget, because it's funny, when it's all over, a lot of you seem to go into depression. And all of a sudden you realize how wonderful it was. Hopefully you start realizing now how wonderful it is and how privileged you are. To every up and comer, to every kid that's dreaming of becoming a first grader, never ever forget what it was like to play for nothing, what it was like to play for your mates. And that's another thing, mate against mate, state against mate, state against state. What an absolute load of rubbish. Excuse me. New South Wales and players and Queensland players aren't mates. The second they put on that jersey, they hate each other. You can see it. Queensland hates us. Those weeks that go past for State of Origin 1 through to 3, the pure and utter hatred between us and Queensland is, you can smell it in the air. Those weeks, we are no longer Australians. It is New South Wales and they are Queensland. And we hate them even more than they hate us. And that's the beautiful thing about the game. Because once it's over, everybody goes back to normal. But for those weeks, it's war. And it isn't state against state and mate against mate. There are no mates. They hate each other out there. And I love it. I just wish they'd bring back the bit of fight. A bit of fighting here and there, a bit of biff. You know? I hope my son makes it. But I promise you this, I'll never ever let him forget what it took for him to get here. So when he doesn't feel like playing one weekend, I'll remind him of all the weekends that I didn't feel like taking him to a game. And I got into the car, I was exhausted working all week, and I went. And every single player that plays rugby league now, when you don't feel like playing at your best, remember what your parents did, what your grandparents did. They didn't feel like taking you to a game sometimes, but they did. There was no excuses. So what's your excuse? What's your excuse to say, I don't feel like playing? I wish we can go back to grounds like this. I wish the game could go back to the days where we could sit here in mediocre grandstands and really soak in the atmosphere. 10,000 people at this stadium looks like 100,000. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. 100,000 or 50,000 capacity stadiums with 50,000 people look empty. This was the secret of the success of our game. This is the secret why State of Origin is so successful. I hope we can go back. So what do you think? Shall we go back to the way it was? Shall we go back to the local derby grounds? Let us know. Leave a comment. Enjoy the game, guys. New South Wales all the way.